In project management, one of the biggest questions isn't really how to follow a plan. It's knowing when you might need to throw it out the window. Today we're diving into that critical skill, how to choose between sticking to a rigid plan and taking a more adaptive approach.
So, which is it going to be? A rigid, locked-in plan from day one, or a system that actually thrives on constant change? This is the dilemma every single project leader faces. And believe me, getting this decision wrong can doom a project before you even get started.
Because let's be real, not every project is a straight shot from point A to point B. Some are more like winding roads, where the destination only gets clearer the further you drive. And those projects, they demand a totally different way of thinking, one that embraces flexibility and feedback right from the get-go.
Nailing that decision is absolutely crucial for the CAPM exam. So, what we're doing here is giving you a sneak peek into a framework designed to do just that, help you choose the right approach for any situation you're given. So, let's break it down.
Okay, so what's the real problem here? Why do so many people get tripped up by this on the exam? Well, it really comes down to making the leap from just memorizing stuff to actually mastering the concepts.
So many CAPM candidates, they know the definition's cold, but when it comes to a real-world scenario question, they freeze. It's tough to tell the difference between adaptive and predictive methods under pressure, or to quickly weigh the pros and cons. You end up memorizing the what, but getting totally stuck on the why and the when, especially when you throw organizational factors into the mix.
And here's the thing you have to get. The CAPM exam, it is not a vocabulary test. It is a judgment test. It's designed to see if you can look at a messy situation and make the right call.
So, how in the world do you build that kind of judgment? Well, let's take a look at a decision framework that's built for this exact problem. Think of it like getting the right mental tools to take apart any project scenario they throw at you.
All right, first things first, let's get the fundamentals straight. On one side, you've got your predictive or plan-based approach. You can think of this like a building blueprint. Everything's planned out up front, it's all sequential. Then, on the other side, you've got the adaptive or change-driven approach. This is all about working in short cycles, getting constant feedback, and actually welcoming change.
Okay, let's put this into practice with a quick scenario. Imagine your team is expecting the product requirements to change. A lot, all the time. So what do? Do you try to stick to a rigid plan? Or do you go with a model that's literally built for change? See? This is exactly the kind of thinking the exam is testing.
But of course, there's no magic bullet here. There's no single best method. Every single approach has its own pros and cons. The real secret is knowing which trade-offs you're okay with for any given project.
And a framework like this helps you weigh those trade-offs. For instance, with a predictive approach, the big pro is you get predictable timelines and costs, which is huge. The downside? It's rigid. Now, with an adaptive approach, you get amazing flexibility. But you have to watch out for scope creep like a hawk. Getting that balance is everything. Okay, let's try another one. Picture a project that's buried in regulations. It needs heavy-duty documentation and official approvals before you can even think about starting the next phase. Does that sound like a project that can afford to be super flexible and change on a whim? Or does it sound like it needs a much more structured, documented process?
But hold on, the decision goes even deeper than that. A project never ever exists in a bubble. The structure of your actual organization can be the deciding factor in whether your chosen method works or totally fails.
So check out this exam-style question. Where do you think a predictive, plan-based approach would fit in best? In an organization that's super flexible and dynamic, or one that has a clear hierarchy with stable, well-defined processes? You got it. The environment tells you which method to use.
And finally, there are two other big influences you've got to know for the exam. First, organizational process assets, or OPAs. These are your company's internal tools, things like templates, policies, and past project files. Then you've got enterprise environmental factors, or EEFs. These are the conditions you have to work within, like the company culture or what's happening in the market. So if a question on the exam tells you that you must use your company's official templates and follow processes from old projects, what's that an example of? Is it an external market trend, or is it an internal asset that's guiding your work? Spotting these clues is a total game changer. So let's pull all of this together. The big takeaway here is that it's not about which method is better, it's about which method is the best fit for the situation you're in. When it comes down to it, context is king.
This right here is the philosophy you need to burn into your brain. The success of a project really does hinge on your ability to match your approach to the environment. That's pretty much the central idea of all modern project management.
And that's the whole goal, isn't it? It's not just to memorize definitions. It's to become a kind of project detective, to learn how to read a scenario, spot the hidden clues about requirements or regulations or the company culture, and then confidently pick the right path forward.
And that really brings us to the ultimate value here. This isn't just about passing a test. It's about learning how to think like a truly effective project manager.
Look, here's the bottom line. Getting good at this one skill, analyzing the situation, is a massive, massive advantage. On the CAPM exam, so many questions suddenly click into place the second you figure out whether the scenario is calling for a predictive approach or an adaptive one.
What you saw here was just a quick peek into this way of thinking, but the key takeaway is simple. You have to stop just memorizing terms and start analyzing scenarios. That's the one shift in thinking that turns struggling candidates into certified project managers.